Good afternoon, this is Garrett Godwin reporting inside the Westin Book Cadillac in downtown Detroit. We're just minutes away from the start of another Detroit Economic Club meeting with today's speaker, Shaun Donovan, who's the Secretary for the Housing of Urban Development. Also speaking today is our Honorable Mayor of Detroit, Dave Bing. For more coverage, go online to Detroit's number one website, americagr.com.
So now we'll get down to business. So fill out those question cards and please do join me as we welcome our presiding officer for today's meeting, who certainly needs no introduction, but it is my pleasure to do so. Please join me in welcoming the Mayor of the City of Detroit, the Honorable Dave Bing.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone, and thank you for being here. Today I have the pleasure of introducing one of our most important federal partners. The HUD Secretary, Shaun Donovan, is joining us today, and we are very lucky to have him here. This morning we announced a partnership called Strong Cities, Strong Communities that will bring a number of critical federal assets to the city of Detroit. This could not have been possible without the work of a number of President Obama's top advisors, including Secretary Donovan. The Secretary has a long history of success supporting community growth and neighborhoods. In New York, he served as Commissioner of the New York City Department of Housing, where he led an award-winning collaboration between foundations, banks, and government. At the federal level, he received as acting FHA Commissioner during the Clinton-Bush transition. And today, he holds the position of HUD Secretary for President Obama, where he is doing an outstanding job and is really helping us here in the city of Detroit and across the rest of the country. Secretary Donovan also holds a bachelor's and master's degree from Harvard University. And as HUD Secretary, he has helped spearhead approximately $100 million in investment in Detroit, more specifically in our neighborhoods in Detroit. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Secretary Shaun Donovan.
Thank you so much. Dave, thank you for that warm introduction, for the warm welcome back to Detroit. More importantly, thank you for your remarkable leadership. It is a great pleasure to come back to Detroit. I was just talking to Dave about the summer I spent in 1985 living in Detroit. And to come back to this great city, to see the energy, the progress, the momentum, the real sense of hope and optimism that this city has under your leadership, Dave. I can't say enough about how great it is to be a partner with you. Thank you for your leadership. But it's not only great to be back in Detroit, it's great to be here to speak before the Detroit Economic Club, which has provided a critical platform for ideas about America's economy for nearly 8 decades. Nearly 8 decades. I am proud to be part of that legacy today and to see so many friends and colleagues that I've worked with over the years. I want to talk to you today about the Obama administration's approach to urban policy. How over these last 2.5 years, we've done things in a new way, the reason that we've done things differently, and how this new approach supports cities like Detroit that America needs to create jobs and to win the future. But to understand the path forward for our cities, we need to understand their past. What they meant to the American economy in the last century, what they mean to the economy of this century, and what they needed to make that transformation. I'd like to begin with a story that provides some perspective. It's about a one-industry town, a town that was an economic powerhouse for decades. And because of shifting global headwinds and changing demands, this town found its largest employer reeling, going from more than 100,000 workers at its peak to less than 39,000 inside of 4 years. It was the worst unemployment crisis any major city had seen since the Great Depression. Private investment had evaporated, and there were few signs of it coming back. Hopes had so dimmed that 2 local realtors whose own families' fates depended on the vibrancy of the city's economy rented a billboard for $160. Placing it on a road heading out of town as drivers left for the suburbs, the billboard read simply, "Will the last person leaving Seattle turn out the lights?" 40 years later, we know that one industry aerospace town, which had relied on Boeing for its economic health, rebounded from the 60,000 jobs that company lost during those 4 years, transforming into the home of Microsoft, Amazon, and Starbucks, a community with a transportation system that gives virtually every family in the region access to jobs and opportunity. Seattle wasn't alone in this resurgence. Pittsburgh, long a giant in the steel industry, watched as its largest mill, the Homestead Works, shuttered its doors in 1984. Today, Pittsburgh is considered the most livable city in America, its economy built on the backbone of education and healthcare. Boston endured a brutal transition that began in the 1960s and lasted through much of the following decade, as it went from being the hub of New England's shoe and textile business to a global center of financial management, education, and advanced electronics, and a place that is attracting new residents to that region. These communities diversified their economies. They educated their workforces and exported goods. They committed to broadly shared prosperity. And they worked closely with new partners, the private sector and the third sector of philanthropy and nonprofits. We in the Obama administration learned from this history. We've joined the federal government with local partners in taking a pragmatic, regional approach to problem solving that supports local leadership, local resources, and local innovation. Indeed, as our communities' economies become ever more interdependent, today the partners that are growing ever more important are those in the regions where we live. Regional neighbors matter to everything from bond ratings to the ability to attract businesses, workers, and families. China doesn't distinguish between Detroit and Troy. They see a single region, a single economy, a single competitor. They know that our metropolitan areas are where 85% of our jobs are located and more than 8 in 10 of our residents live. They know that it's our metros that produce over 80% of the nation's patents and exports, and where 90 cents out of every dollar America produces comes from. The anchors of these places are America's cities, and our ability to win the future depends on them. We need cities. But as we've worked these last 30 months with local communities around the country, the question on President Obama's mind and mine is, what do they need? Specifically, what do cities need that only the federal government can provide? In a crisis like the one we've been through, cities need a federal government that invests in their future. And the Recovery Act and many other actions we've taken as an administration have done that on an unprecedented scale. But they also need a different kind of partner. In the last century, in the wake of an earlier urban crisis, all too often, federalism meant bureaucrats in Washington wiping out whole neighborhoods based not on what the community needed, not on what regional leaders said they needed, but on what a plan book in Washington, D.C. said those places needed. Under urban renewal, it was as if neighborhoods were a blank slate, a tabula rasa. As Ron Simmons, the Deputy Secretary at HUD, who was one of the chief architects of Seattle's turnaround during his dozen years as King County Executive, as he said time and time again, it wasn't that Seattle couldn't have used a federal partner, just that it didn't.